This is your Hydrosphere freshwater test. What did you do to prepare for this test? Be specific and honest, please. Provide your short answer. Number 1. Which best describes the process of transpiration in the water cycle? Water from the ocean enters the atmosphere as water vapor. Water on the surface of the earth enters the groundwater supply. Water vapor in the atmosphere returns to the surface of Earth as liquid water. Water on the surface of Earth and water lost by plants enters the atmosphere as water vapor. Number 2. Which would most likely result from a decrease in water supply to a watershed? Increase in ocean water levels, increase in lake water levels, decrease in the water table, decrease in pH levels. Number 3. Which best explains why water quality standards are necessary? To maintain clear water, to maintain fresh tasting water, to prevent water from having any trace of pollutants, to prevent water from having excessive levels of pollutants. Number 4. The water cycle has no beginning or end, but it has an order. Which of the following are most likely ways that water would move through the water cycle? 1. Ocean to river to lake to atmosphere. 2. Aquifer to ice cap to ocean to atmosphere. 3. Atmosphere to watershed to river to ocean. 4. Atmosphere to ocean to atmosphere to ocean. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 1 and 4. Number 5. How can humans most directly be good environmental stewards of river basins? By developing a task force for creating estuaries, by protecting soil, water, air, plants, and animals, by promoting public awareness through education, by draining swamps, wetlands, marshes, and bogs. Number 6. Rivers and streams transport nutrients, salts, sediments, and pollutants. Which is the correct order for this process? Estuaries to oceans to watersheds, watersheds to oceans to estuaries, watersheds to estuaries to oceans, watersheds to oceans to river basins. Number 7. Why is filtration an important part of water treatment? Filtration guarantees a clear coloring in water. Filtration removes small particles from the water. Filtration adds chlorine to water, killing microorganisms. Filtration adds vitamins and minerals to drinking water. Number 8. Where is most of the Earth's water located? Rivers, oceans, groundwater, ice caps, and glaciers. Number 9. In the graph, source 1 represents freshwater resources, source 3, source 2, source 1, rivers, oceans, groundwater, ice caps, and glaciers. Number 10. The process of removing salt from the ocean water to make fresh water is called salination, desalination, salt water polarizing, well water filtration. Number 11. Which factor most affects how water drains into local watersheds? Evaporation and precipitation rates, differences in elevation and land features, county and state boundaries, yearly precipitation rates. Number 12. A family living in a house needs to dig a new well before they will have usable water. Several options for the well location are shown in the diagram. Which location would be the best choice for the new well? Q, R, S, or T? Unsaturated, saturated, impermeable rock. Q, R, S, T. Number 13. Which is most likely an example of point source pollution? Fertilizer sprayed onto a field, water runoff from a city street, a factory pipe flowing into a river, spilled oil in a driveway. Number 14. Which environmental factors would most likely impact the quality of a freshwater system? Dissolved oxygen and pH, salinity and temperature, surface tension and aquatic organisms, evaporation and precipitation. Number 15. The following water quality conditions are observed in a lake ecosystem: high nitrite concentration, pH of 10, low dissolved oxygen levels, temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Which best describes this ecosystem? The ecosystem is suffering the effects of desalination. The ecosystem is suffering the effects of a lake turnover. The ecosystem is suffering the effects of evapotranspiration. The ecosystem is suffering the effects of eutrophication. Number 16. Which best describes the relationship between temperature and dissolved oxygen in a lake? As temperature increases, dissolved oxygen increases. As temperature increases, dissolved oxygen decreases. As temperature decreases, dissolved oxygen decreases. A change in temperature has no effect on dissolved oxygen. Number 17. Which is the greatest impact of large quantities of sediment flowing into North Carolina's rivers and streams? Sediment poisons fish. Sediment prevents light from reaching plants. Sediment interferes with the ability for fish to find mates. Sediment increases the depth of rivers and streams, reducing the amount of flowing water. Number 18. Which best explains the difference between primary and secondary sewage treatment? Primary treatment removes phosphates and nitrates. Secondary treatment removes all of the pollutants. Primary treatment removes the solid materials. Secondary treatment is less expensive. Number 19. If a pond is located in an area with significant amounts of air pollution, which would be most directly affected? pH, nitrates, turbidity, dissolved oxygen. Number 20. A company wishes to build a major golf resort above an aquifer. The company is granted permission to build the resort, but the builders must follow specific laws and regulations during the construction of the resort. Why have the laws and regulations most likely been established? To reduce the amount of money spent on golf resorts, to minimize the impact of pollution on the environment, to protect the rights of humans over the rights of the environment, to prevent the construction of too many golf courses in the country. Number 21. Which statement is true about the hydrosphere? It is made of only fresh water. All of it is located above ground. Most of it contains salt. It is formed by climate change. Number 22. Groundwater is stored below the Earth's surface. The top region that forms the upper boundary of the water in an aquifer is called what? Water table, spring, sediment load, well water. Number 23. Which best describes how frogs can be used to indicate the health of a water system? Frogs will change color in a polluted environment. Frogs will sicken or die in a polluted environment. Frogs will move away from a polluted environment. Frogs will change their diet in a polluted environment. Number 24. Which best explains why a scientist would use nets to capture and count organisms in a river? To measure pH, to measure turbidity, to measure bioindicators, to measure temperature. Number 25. Which would a scientist expect to find in a lake that experienced a sudden increase in nitrate levels? An increase in temperature, an increase in the number of fish, an increase in dissolved oxygen, an increased amount of algae and aquatic plants. Number 26. Scientists notice that many fish are dying in a local lake. Which on-site water quality data would they most likely gather to determine the cause of the fish kill? Arsenic and cyanide levels, water level and surface area, biodiversity and water depth, dissolved oxygen and pH. Number 27. Which would most likely happen if too many nutrients entered an estuary? Nutrients would be used by the fish and plants, keeping the estuary in balance. Algal blooms would lower dissolved oxygen levels, causing fish to suffocate. Algal blooms would decrease, leaving few food resources for fish. Nutrients would sink to the bottom, increasing soil deposition. Number 28. How does water in an estuary compare to water in the open ocean? Estuaries have less concentrated nutrients and salt. Estuaries have more concentrated nutrients and salt. Estuaries have less concentrated nutrients and more concentrated salt. Estuaries have more concentrated nutrients and less concentrated salt. #29. For 1 week, students monitored the level of turbidity in a local river and recorded the data. Based on the data, on which day would the dissolved oxygen most likely be the lowest? Level of turbidity in local river. Day, turbidity in NTU. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. Question 30. Based on the information in the table, which of the following bodies of water is likely to have the highest water quality? Macroinvertebrate tolerance to water pollution. Macroinvertebrate tolerance to water pollution. Blackfly larva, somewhat tolerant. Caddisfly larva, intolerant. Dragonfly larva, somewhat tolerant. Midge larva, tolerant. Stonefly larva, intolerant. Water bug adult, tolerant. A stream with caddisfly and stonefly larvae. A lake with dragonfly larvae and water bugs. A stream with blackfly and stonefly larvae. A lake with midge and dragonfly larvae. Number 31. Which factor has the greatest effect on a community's store of fresh water? The location of the nearest ocean, the average annual rainfall, the location of the nearest mountain, the average winter temperature. Number 32. A student wants to create a model showing the most important reason why old gasoline should never be poured into the soil. Which of the following should be included in the model? Gasoline evaporating from the soil, gasoline catching fire in the soil, gasoline polluting an old septic tank, gasoline trickling into groundwater. Number 33. Wastewater from homes is not all the same. Gray water refers to home wastewater from sinks and bathtubs. It does not contain human biological wastes, so it can be reused instead of being treated as sewage. Which uses of gray water demonstrate good stewardship? Washing dishes and drinking water and irrigating flower beds and watering trees and washing dishes. Short answer question. Explain the difference between point and non-point source pollution. Please provide at least one example of each. Be sure to answer incomplete sentences. Short answer. What is the difference between a watershed and a river basin? Be sure to answer incomplete sentences. Short answer. Using the country's river sampling data below, determine which river is the healthiest and which is the poorest. Provide at least 2 pieces of evidence for each health status in your answer, connecting it to water quality standards, and be sure to answer incomplete sentences. Henderson County River sampling. Location: A, River B, River C. pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, fish, bacteria, invertebrates. In River A, the pH is 6.43, temperature is 14.4 degrees Celsius, dissolved oxygen is 5.7 grams per milliliter. The fish found were carp and gar. The bacteria level was high. The invertebrates are caddisfly and dobsonfly. In River B, the pH was 6.96, temperature is 14.4 degrees Celsius, dissolved oxygen is 9.6 grams per milliliter. Fish found were trout and gar. The bacteria is low. The invertebrates were midge. River C, the pH is 7.2, temperature is 13.89 degrees Celsius, dissolved oxygen is 8.4. Fish are none. Bacteria is moderate. Invertebrates were caddisfly and cranefly.